Welcome to the Turkish Films Chess Channel. Today, earlier on stream, I played a game. It was in the closed Catalan. And today we're going to be going over the analysis of this game. So, let's check it out. Well, self-analysis is off right now, and we're going to be showing the lines. Yeah, so if you want to see what the code was for the game, the eco is 00. Alright, let's get into it. So I play d4. Knight f6, this is the Indian game. c4, common response, and e6 this is how I play. This is called the East Indian. I used to play the Nimzo Indian with knight c3, but I just didn't like it for white. So I switched to g3. It aims to control this long diagonal and kind of hinder black's kingside development. One thing we have to notice is normally in these positions, if black plays d5, with d5 he's attacking this pawn, like a queen's gambit, and this bishop normally is the thing to save it. This is the main defender normally of the c4 pawn. But since we're fianchetting it, this is no longer going to be the case. So d5 comes in, and we ignore it. We say, you can have the pawn. He takes the pawn, and this is a position that I'm familiar with moves. Black playing a6, black playing b5, I know how to play against. Black playing knight c3, I know how to play against. I've even looked at bishop e7 a little bit. And basically, by trying to hold onto this pawn, it doesn't really work out. He ends up being overextended in some fashion holding onto this pawn. So we just ignore him. We say, you can't hold on to the pawn. It's bad for you. Don't even try. So I was ready. I was like, okay, if he plays a6, I know exactly what I'm going to play. If he plays b5, I know I'm going to play. And he surprised me. He played c5. And I'd never seen this before. But I knew, in general, this move, it's weakening this diagonal even further. Because in some lines, he's forced to play c6 to block off the diagonal. And by playing c5, he's weakened that opportunity. Now, I really wasn't sure what to do here. It was a novelty, and this is on move 5. So on move 5, I'm already out of book. But I knew some of the ideas. So we have to count right now. He has 2 attackers on the central pawn. I have 2 defenders. That's all well and good. Really, I want to get after this guy, if I can, and provoke him to try to defend it. But first, I decided to castle and just stay safe. And there's reasons for this. Like, we don't want, after he takes, to have some checks coming in at me. And also, I basically just want to put my pieces on really good squares and then beat him from there. Okay, and now he plays knight c6. And now this is starting to resemble a position I would know. It's just his knight would be here instead of the pawn being there. The pawn's forward. So it's just that one difference. But here, I tried to make queen a4 work, which attacks the pawn and pins the knight. So there's still only 2 attackers to this pawn. I just didn't like it. And the computer didn't actually like it either. It was its 4th choice after I let it sit for a while. When the depth got up to 28, it then saw, there you go, now this is queen a4. But it definitely wants dc5, which is a difficult thing for me to do because it seems like it just develops this piece right away. The problem is, after queen takes, rook takes, he's actually developing my rook while he's developing his bishop, and I end up messing up his pawn structure quite severely with some line like this. This is the computer's main preference in this position. And then it kind of goes back and forth between these 2 moves. I like the idea of knight f to d2 because you can't defend with a move like this because your knight's hanging. I think I would likely just play knight b to d2 and then suffer with him trying to defend the pawn. Okay? But I played e3 instead. And e3 is just an attempt to over-defend this pawn so I can start moving my knights to their optimal squares. Like, this is a good square for the knight normally because it unleashes the bishop and attacks this pawn. Okay, he took. And I took. The computer didn't seem to have a huge preference other than this point here. And I knew that I'm accepting having an isolated pawn in the center, but I thought I should defend the isolated pawn. The computer says, don't do that, just take with the queen, he'll take back, and yes, you have an isolated pawn, but it's really hard for him to exploit it. it ends up actually being kind of useful in some positions to push it forward, especially when the king has nowhere to go currently. Okay, so he gets ready to castle. And now what I've known in these d takes c4 Sicilians, when he tries to hold on to it, is that if he can castle and be safe, he just ends up being a pawn up. And he can just kind of pretend that nothing happened. So here's my last chance to stop him from being a pawn up. And so I took it. And the computer at first really liked this, but then I let it sit for longer, and it was like, no, you're not really doing that well. So I checked him and then took the pawn. So now it's just equal material. We can see 2 on the queen side, 2 to 2 on the queen side. He has a 4 to 3 on the queen side, but I have a central pawn. And the game continued with him castling. And I brought my pieces out. This is a main square for me that I kind of want to make sure I'm covering. It's a big piece of the center. My rooks can, develop normally. And rook b8. The idea is to hop off this line here. And I thought initially that the idea of this move was to play b5. And so I stopped b5. In actuality, he's just getting off the diagonal so he can bring his bishop out. Again, this is kind of like the pride of the Catalan position. And so if he can trade it off, I just have a worse kingside structure than he does, because I have weak light squares. He has no weaknesses. So I misdiagnosed what the threat was here. Not that he wouldn't have played b5 had I not played my move, but just... So I played a4, right, stopping b5. And it misses the point. Now, I saw that bishop f4, actually in the game, I was split between playing a4 or bishop f4. And it looks like the rook just has to go back. But the bishop can go to d6. So after bishop f4, bishop d6. And I didn't really see what my pieces were doing. I didn't know what my bishop... I can't let him take, because that would just ruin my structure. I don't want to move my bishop anywhere else, but the computer has the nice idea of bishop e5. Like, I'm threatened to ruin your structure, and so you kind of maybe have to do something about that. The computer plays b5, right? Remember, I didn't play a4, so now we can play b5, like I said. And after you come back like this, he has to take. He doesn't have to take. Okay, the computer's changing its mind. Before he had to take, but now it just is going to pile up against my weak center pawn. Yeah, a lot of dynamics to this position, but basically a4 was misdiagnosing the threat, misdiagnosing the problem. So he develops just fine. And now I try to push in the center. I want to hinder this bishop from doing anything. It preferred that I played bishop f4, which makes a lot of sense. And again, we get bishop d6 again. We get bishop e5, the same thing. We just get to develop our piece to a nice central square. Okay, and he, developed, he encountered his bishop, as advertised. And I pushed in the center. And there's a few tactics here, but most of them end up working out pretty solidly for either of us. It's not too difficult to find where equality lies here. So he attacked my rook, or my queen, and computer's move really surprised me when I saw it. I thought my move was really good. I'm reinforcing this. The queen is a little iffy sometimes. You gotta watch out. But the computer preferred here. And if a queen trade occurs, we take with the pawn. The center is, you can see, controlled 3 times. And it's attacked 3 times. So it's just a trade. But I end up with these doubled pawns, and he has an infiltration square here. And I was not a huge fan of this. But at the end of it all, I end up being able to take this pawn and kind of harass him on the 7th rank quicker than he can harass me. So queen d3, mistake. I had a really nice opportunity in queen b5 and didn't take it. Okay. So e captures d5. We just have massive trades. Again, it always wants bishop f4, attacking the rook. Because if he blocks like this, he's undefending the center. And if he moves the rook back, I just gained a free development. So I wasn't thinking so clearly. And I traded everything down. And here I thought, this is very most likely drawn. He is slightly more active than I am. But I thought I still have maybe some opportunities to get my queen side going. because the king side is going to be fairly equal. So I put my rook on the back rank. He went here, right, which double teams against this pawn, which I was really, really scared about. It makes sense in my opinion to be scared about it. Computer is not at all phased. The computer actually encourages it with bishop f4. And maybe I'll actually leave this and won't look at the tactics here. But b4 is an important move for this position. To kind of, b4 actually discourages this move, and there's lots of strong reasons why. But I'll let you kind of figure that out. Dark scores are really important in this position, and we both have a dark score bishop. But I reacted because I saw that he was attacking this, so I defended, which again, hangs his pawn and actually hangs this pawn sometimes. He took, and he played h6, which was a bit mysterious to me. I thought for sure that playing a move like this or taking this pawn would make a lot more sense. So I took the pawn. He goes for rook d2. I first attack squares when I can. And this is a mouse slip. He actually put in chat that it was a mouse slip, just to end the game right away. I take the rook and he's just down a rook with no compensation. So kind of a sad ending to the game. But you can see it. The computer just sees this out and sees that it's just a draw. I get nervous in drawn positions because I've lost drawn positions and I need to know what I'm doing to not draw or not lose drawn positions. And at my rating, like 1600-ish, it's kind of a toss-up. Who's gonna win? Who's not gonna win? So we'll go over the main mistakes in that game. So one of the main mistakes was playing rook to d1. Obviously, e3 was off spirit, but rook d1, while it does reinforce the center, when you have the opportunity to develop your pieces, you should do it. And we develop here with tempo, threatening to win and exchange at minimum if he plays a move like this, or just a rook if he does nothing. So bishop d6 is forced, and we get our bishop to a very nice central square. If he takes, that'd be amazing, because we would unisolate our pawn. And if he doesn't take, we can always try to damage his structure, if we find that to be useful. But this connects our rooks. It frees our position up so much. And with a move even like f4, we end up having our bishop outside the pawn chain and really supporting everything going on here. Okay, the next move was queen d3, which I liked because it lines up with the queen, but again, the queen's defended, so it doesn't really do all that much, and the tactics just don't work out. It's hard to see queen b5 for me because it looks like I'm just doubling my pawns for no reason, but I got to keep in mind that he has weaknesses here, and that my rooks are ready to pounce on these squares. I don't know why the arrows aren't working. There we go. My rooks are ready to pounce on the 7th rank faster than his are, just because that's how all the tactics work out. So the correct move here is queen to b5, offering a queen trade. I think the computer actually settles on a different move, queen c7, not accepting the queen trade. But in this move, I just think, oh, he's going to queen trade automatically. But if he doesn't, then maybe his queen wanted to be here, now that can't be there anymore, right? And knight captures d5. Again, the computer just really loves this bishop f4 move. It's not a bad move. It's hard for me to, obviously I just never saw that this was working. I was just thought, oh, bishop d6 and I'm donezo. There's nothing, I don't know what I gained by giving away my dark square bishop. And I try to kind of abide by to take as a mistake as much as I can. If I don't see why I'm trading pieces or allowing a trade to occur, I don't see the benefit. But here it actually says that rook a8 is better than bishop d6. And if I knew that this was the move he'd play, I'd definitely play this move, because I'm gaining this here. So overall, not a great performance, I would say. Ended obviously by just a mouse slip at the end, so it's not based on skill that I won. But you can see that it's fairly straight for the beginning here. And then I kind of give away my advantage, give him an advantage, but he gives it back to me. So a little bit of confusion going on here, and this is in the middle game here. So out of the opening phase, just misplacing my pieces, and then trading in the wrong order by him. So you can see my score was 91.6%. his score was 89.7%. I know this isn't the most important number here, but I try to aim for 95-ish because it means that I'm on the same page as those entities which we consider, right, sufficiently good at chess. Yeah, I'll try to, for the next videos, to do more kind of in-depth analysis. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and as always, make sure to stay Turkish. Bye.